Hello and welcome to another episode of Children's Moments here at Heavenward Thinking. Today, once again, we have another object lesson for you, and Miss Ruth is going to be talking about, do you have the faith to walk on water?
So let's start with the story of Jesus walking on the water, and then we'll do our little object lesson for this. So in front of us, we do have a bowl of water if you want to try this at home. We have some metal paper clips, and we have some dish soap. So let's read the story from Matthew chapter 14. And let's start with verse 25. Shortly before dawn, I guess I should give some background. Jesus' disciples, maybe we should move back to 22, are out in a boat, and he's not there. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. Okay, after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. So this isn't a calm time, and the disciples are going to see the water being kind of rough here. And then shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they cried. They said and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. So let's do our little experiment object lesson here, Timothy. First, I want you to test these paper clips and see if you can make them walk on water like Jesus and Peter did. Timothy, for those who can't see this, who are listening on the podcast, what's happening to your metal paper clips there?
They are not floating, they're sinking.
They're sinking. So that's like us. If Jesus is calling us to do something, it might not be to actually walk on water, but Peter was able to. But we might have something Jesus calls us to do that we can't do on our own. It might seem impossible, but with Jesus' help, it can be possible. Could Peter just walk on the water by himself?
No, he needed Jesus' help.
He needed Jesus' help. So we've taken another paper clip here, Timothy, and I've bent this, and it's going to represent Jesus supporting us, okay, in whatever he asks us to do, even if it's as tough as walking on water. And I'm going to put this ourselves on top of Jesus holding us up. Whoops, I got to get it balanced just right. It does work, but you have to... Just like we have to be balanced right in our relationship with Jesus. If you balance it just right and you put the paper clip in, because of the surface tension, you should be able to get it to stay afloat. It's very tricky with these little paper clips. Did that walk on water?
Absolutely, it's working.
So could we do it by ourselves?
No, we needed Jesus' help and faith.
And we had to have a pretty balanced life there, right? Depending completely on Jesus, that paperclip would not float without the support of the other one bent underneath, and that represents Jesus. But what happened to Peter when he started to take his eyes off Jesus?
He started to drown.
So this dish soap here is going to represent the fears of things that maybe we've been asked to do something for Jesus, like tell a friend about Jesus, and then we start getting afraid of what are other people going to say. So watch what happens when I put the fears in here in the water. What happened to the paper
immediately
clip?
starts to sink and completely sunk.
So instead of looking at the fears, what should we have done?
Look at Jesus. Keep our eyes fixed on him.
Keep our eyes on Jesus. So we can't do the impossible without Jesus. But with Jesus, all things are possible.
Amen. Well, we hope we've been challenged by that this week, that you'll keep your eyes fixed on Jesus in the storms of life, and that you'll walk on the water, do the impossible things that God makes possible as we focus on Jesus. Join us next time for another object lesson, another children's moments here on Heavenward Thinking.